Hello, everyone. My name is Mary. I came in from New York. About a year ago, my friend Jenna and I started something called Continuum Fashion. And our ambition was to explore ideas at the cutting edge of technology and fashion design. And I'm here to talk to you today about the subject of 3D printing and the future of fashion. So you might wonder why 3D printing? I mean, there's a lot about the technology, but why 3D printing in fashion? And so let's just start for a second about not even thinking about technology. Fashion is about fantasy and reality. Fantasy in being able to change who you are, how you're perceived. Reality is you have to wear it, you have to live in it. You know, it's not just a runway. So here's fantasy, Cinderella. The dress of your dreams manifests itself out of fairy dust. The reality is sewing. This is how clothing is made, everything from T-shirts to ball gowns. The garment industry as a whole, technology-wise in manufacturing, hasn't really changed from 1907 till now. I mean, probably the biggest difference here is that this was the US, this is China and Southeast Asia mostly. But if I sepia tone this photo, could you even tell the difference? So could we make clothing without sewing? Could we kind of do this? What could you do if you didn't have the limitations of sewing? What if you could achieve complexity without limitation? So I happened to stumble across 3D printing. I mean, I saw these sample swatches. These are like samples of 3D printed textiles. They have some interesting things. I mean, they're not like fabric. You know, it doesn't come in a roll. You don't cut it. And they're not like exactly like textiles, but they start to have properties that are similar. See, they like have drape, and this is a chainmail approach. The interesting thing is that all of the materials are actually the same material on one level. They're made on the same machine. These are SLS 3D printing samples, but they're also different materials because each of them have a different structural geometry. And it's nylon. And the last time we heard that nylon was the future of fashion was the 1950s, as you can see. And this is a different nylon. It starts off as powder. This is what it is. It's the same nylon that's used in a lot of cosmetic products, like foundation, powder. So it's safe. But this is what it is. This is literally what it is, which you can barely see on the screen against the white. And so the challenge is you're not even making clothes out of like fabric or thread. You're making clothes out of dust. And so what do? The most obvious thing to start with is a bikini. And this is for the simple reason that a bikini has very little surface area you have to cover, for one thing. And 3D printing is still kind of expensive. It's priced by volume. But also, you make good use of the material properties. The nylon is waterproof. And you have some interesting design challenges to fit the curves of the body. So this is our design. This is what we came up with. This we call the N12. You know, it's arguably the world's first ready-to-wear 3D printed garment. And the design as a whole is not necessarily about this, but it's the fact that we invented our own method of making a 3D printed textile that will fit to any curvature that we define on the computer. And you can see here in the video that it is flexible. I mean, it's got some rigidness to it, but for a bikini that actually works well for us because it provides that innate support. The actual shape is just there. Like, there is no forming, there is no like padding in it. As a bikini, it works rather well because when it gets wet, the water distributes evenly across the surface, so it doesn't get clingy or rubbery. And if you've ever shopped for a bikini before, you realize there's very few options out there that have both support and are nice to look at. So this textile is made algorithmically. It's computational. It's got this circle packing pattern that's calculated based on the curve. Most of the credit here goes to Jenna. Jenna used to, at one point she worked at an architecture firm. She wrote code that did paneling for skyscrapers. And this is basically the same idea. The first initial prototype we did, it the top actually printed in one solid piece, and that's a very nice conceptual thing to do where you have a product that just comes complete out of the machine. All the closures are in it. It goes seamlessly into the connections. This is the production model, which we essentially had to design it again. And we broke it up into pieces to not only better fit inside the print bed, but this is how we do sizing. It's a modular sizing system so that you have the straps and you have the cups, and then that's how we do sizes 34A to about like 36D. So it's not completely custom sizing, but we felt it was important to do this because we wanted to start to get to that concept that 3D printing could be used for ready-to-wear fashion. And it is only when you start to do sizing that you start approaching consumer products and not just a one-off art piece. At the same time, it's interesting because, I mean, this is not necessarily a product that's ready for ready-to-wear. I mean, it's not even about the price point. Like, yes, it's expensive, but it's not completely out of reach. It's that people still didn't believe us. Everyone said like, oh, but it's plastic. Until you touch it, you can't feel how it's actually soft. And of course, here we had our whole system for doing this 3D printed textile. So the idea was not just to make the bikini, but to make a product line. So here's some jewelry that we did. And initially, we felt like, oh, you know, we would expand and make a product line. And jewelry makes a lot of sense from a business point of view as well. A lot of people with small independent lines make more money from their accessories than from their you know, regular flagship collection. The only thing about jewelry is like, I mean, it's nice that I can like wear it. See, you know, I'm not going to wear the bikini around, but at the same time, it doesn't provide the same design challenge. Like fundamentally, like jewelry is ornamental. Like it's kind of easy almost for us, and it doesn't have that like structural challenge. So what we felt like what we should do next is something that still had those same challenges, but could maybe be more approachable in context. So we decided to do shoes next. Shoes, 3D printed shoes have been done before. You know, we're not aiming to be the first people to do 3D printed shoes. But the good thing about shoes is you can never have too many designs. And this is what we came up with. This we're still working on. And you know, we're going for still very digital aesthetic here. This has a low-res triangulated pattern, which you've also seen around in other designs like United Nude, and I mean, it's almost like a trend, but we're doing it not for actually the direct aesthetic. I mean, there's a functional reason to this design as well. Just with the cost level, this is a very low density structure, so making this solid would have cost more to print, and the nylon's actually strong enough for this to support your weight. Like I'm wearing them right now, and I mean they're wearable. They're not like the most comfortable shoes in the world. They could use a little work, but I can still wear them and walk in them perfectly fine. We've got some different colors. Here's like a silver one we're working on. Here's orange, if we want to do a little like seasonal variety. But the concept between this as a collection was not about this one design. It's about, actually, so when you're shopping for shoes, you always get this one thing that happens. So you see something that you really like, I love this design, it's so awesome, but it's a 5-inch heel, and like 5-inch heels are like awesome, but you can stand in them for about like 10 minutes. Like a 3-inch heel would be like a little bit more practical. There's not that many like interesting 3-inch heels out there, to be honest. So you just want to be able to do that, like flip in between the possible heights. And so why not let people do that? I mean, we're making these like one-off anyway. They're bespoke. You know, if you order one, we'll make one. So why not just give people a little interactive element? You can just go between 5 inches and 3 inches in a wedge and stiletto. We can add a couple more options for the platforming for the top. And this is also why it's low res. This is just a little bit easier to program when you have fewer triangles. So here, this is kind of like our base design, but we do want to let people order those. So here's like a render of the other one of the other options. Here's a deviation on the design. This one's not entirely 3D printed. This one has origami Tyvek butterflies, which, admittedly is a little bit like branching off from some of our core ideas. But at the same time, as individuals, like sometimes you want to have a little bit room to like play around. And this is maybe the start of a slightly different idea, because beyond 3D printing will also be kind of like, we're interested in materials in general, and in a way, we'll start to develop our own like processes for turning digital designs into physical form. Here's a shoe design with that first in 12 pattern again, which it makes sense that this would work as a shoe as well. But the point I want to bring across is that this whole idea of the future of fashion, it's not about like a style. I mean, we make things that look kind of digital and futury, but that's just kind of like who we are as designers. We are inspired by technology. We like things that are architectural looking. But to be honest, like, the concept of the future of fashion and technology and the effect of technology on fashion from a design perspective as well as an industry perspective is about process. So, I mean, Jenna and I, we're two individual people. I mean, we basically have like a niche market, a niche product. We have ideas that we wanted to share with people. And I mean, 3D printing gives us not only a canvas, but a whole supply chain behind it. Everyone asks whether 3D printing is ready for the consumer market, for mass production. But maybe that's the wrong question, because there's a whole lot of products out there that are very nicely in between, like making one of something and making 10,000 of something. There are a lot of products that should just be maybe like 10 or 100 or 1,000. And 3D printing fills that level of production very well. And consider what e-commerce brings to not just corporations, but to individual designers. I mean, the fact that we can put our stuff on the web and people will see it, and then if some people want to buy it, then we will make it for you and ship it to you. That is great. Like, my marketing strategy is basically, I take photos, I put them online. It's extremely simple. This is our prototyping product development process right here. The first one, I made a paper model. The second one, that was the first print. It didn't fit at all. I did a color test. That was the second print is over here. It actually was wearable. It was a size 7 instead of a size 6, but it still worked. Consider this right here. I have never made shoes before. Jenna and I have never trained as fashion designers. It usually takes you years to learn how to make shoes. And we did it in a couple months. A lot of fashion designers are intimidated by technology, but it will take you a few months to learn CAD, and you can do amazing things with it because technology makes things easier. And this concept here for maybe like broader industries, like like larger brands, is like maybe data is the new black. The most interesting company right now doing this is Nike. Because they have that perfect blend of like collecting data and making it relevant to you. But consider what you could do if you're not Nike, if you're actually smaller. Nike, when they did Nike ID, could only allow their consumers a certain amount of like control over the shoes they wanted to make because they are still mass producing them. They couldn't do that thing that we were trying to do where we just let you choose any like heel height and like change the shoe. And we can do that because we're small. And there's just like all sorts of interesting things you could do by being small. And at the same time, what can tech learn from fashion? Fashion is a much older industry than any modern technologies. And fashion completely capitalizes on like emotional, irrational impulses. I mean, we're trying to make like high heel shoes that are wearable and like reasonably comfortable, but to be honest, people will suffer pain to wear high heel shoes. People will suffer pain and pay a lot of money and be really happy afterwards and still buy more stuff from you. What other industry commands that from its consumers? And on that level, consider technology. Consider designing a laptop. There are several ways to design a laptop that won't break. One approach has been, there's this company, have you seen those laptops that look like, I don't know, like bomb briefcases, and they're supposed to be like, if you drop them, they will not break. And then you have the MacBook Pro, which has its like beautiful unibody aluminum, and no one ever drops their MacBook Pro or tries to. If you scratch one, you go, oh, like making something that lasts is about making it, durable and using the right materials as much as it's about making something that people want to take care of. And so now, since we just always have too many ideas to even like implement, let's just go through some ideas. um, just fun things to do with technology and fashion that make use of both the emotional as well as the technology that's available. Here's one. It's just like, I really want to have like a purse and maybe then like an iPhone app. And then you could just like change the patterns on it dynamically. This would be so fun because the thing about patterns is they're always seasonal and then you get tired of them. But then you always want like maybe a purse that lasts a really long time. So then why not have both? You could do this with e-ink. I've considered like prototyping this with like 2 Kindles that no one wants. And maybe something with a little bit more scale to it, a little bit more infrastructure. Let's take that shoe idea a little bit further. Let's say you have a website, you start with some base designs of shoes, sandals to boots. I want this one to start with. Here we go. What if I had metadata with it? What if it knew that you could comfortably walk 0.2 miles in that? Okay, and I say, well, let me change it a little. Oh, now I can walk 0.5 miles comfortably. And I go, okay, I want to be able to walk like 1 mile in it because that's how far it is from like the office to my apartment. Okay, so just a few changes, maybe changes the design just a little bit, choose slightly different materials. I can put in my dimensions, and I get it shipped to me. And that's a completely different way of doing bespoke that's not even about selecting colors. But selecting colors and materials and patterns is still fun. Let's take it to fashion. Let's take it to dresses because I used to make dresses. I want to get back into it, I think, after the shoes. Let's say I have a website, I have like a little avatar. I can make it look like me for fun. It's like a little mannequin. I don't really want to put my photo because like a lot of people don't necessarily just want to take like a full body photo of themselves. It's a little bit more fun to have it drawn. I could choose some styles, just a little. I want like a V-neck with that design. Here we go, get a little preview. Maybe there's some like different patterns I can choose from. You can also, add like a upload button, add like a canvas thing you can draw, add some like generative designs. I can choose them. I like the flower one. I get a little price, calculate dynamically. Maybe I can choose some material options too, maybe like silk versus cotton versus nylon. I can buy it, or maybe how about let's add a DIY option. I mean, there's always been the tradition of people making their own clothes on one level or another. And for us, where, I mean, admittedly, you're going to reach a different level of people who might not pay $200 for a dress, but might be willing to put in the time to sew it themselves if it costs them $40 to $50. And on this level, the interesting part is like downloading the pattern to make a dress is completely different than buying it. You're not necessarily like cutting into your main product, you're reaching more people. When you download a song versus buy it, it's still the same. Fundamentally, sewing a dress is just very different from buying it, even if it ends up looking the same. And then, well, if you're going to do that, why not take it to retail? Because yes, people still do want to go to stores. Online shopping is fun, but I want someplace to go with my friends on a Saturday and look around. So let's do the magic mirror idea, which let's say I have a full body screen with any variety of 3D scanning technologies in a fitting room. There are scanners that can take body measurements and a full 3D scan of you with your clothes on, so you don't even have to get undressed. They have that same interactive interface with a gesture-based interaction. I can swap through styles and try them on virtually, and then I can buy them and have them, shipped to me. And to end, well, maybe I would just build an airship if I had unlimited capital. But not an airship to like fly around, just one to float over Manhattan. So thank you, everyone. The future is an awesome place. I hope to see you there, and you can find me online if you like. Thank you.